Cool. Well, it is 2 past the hour, so we can go ahead and get started even though people are still trickling in. As you can see on the slide here, it's a full day of events, so feel free to check out the rest of these events. There's going to be more tomorrow. Tomorrow's the last day, but thank you so much for tuning into this session on how to get recruited on LinkedIn. A little bit more on how to get recruited on LinkedIn. Perfect. You want to kick us off, Radhika?
Yeah, sure. So, hi everyone. My name is Radhika Bhatt. I am a climate career coach and recruiter. I have been working in the climate space now for about 3 years. 2 of those years have been solely focused on coaching. Prior to this, I'm a serial career changer myself and a generalist. So, if you're in that boat, lots for us to connect on as well. Previously, I was a technologist. I did user experience design, front end development. I was partnerships director, program director, have kind of done a lot of different things, but the through line through my career has been community building in all the different spaces that I've been in. I've worked in government, nonprofits, startups, and now I'm kind of more in the entrepreneurial space as a career coach and a recruiter as well. I'm based in Richmond, Virginia. I am taking on coaching clients. So if you are interested in working together, my coaching interest form is there. You'll also get that in the email afterwards. And you can also just connect with me on LinkedIn. I share a lot of information about coaching and also just the climate careers landscape in general. I've worked with Terra.do over the last year and I've coached around 300 job seekers into helping them find and navigate the climate career search. So a big part of what I talk about is LinkedIn and networking. So excited to be here. Outside of this, I'm a left-handed lifetime vegetarian. Natalie's also left-handed, so we have that in common. And I'm also a DJ outside of all the climate things.
Perfect. Just a quick reminder to keep yourself muted. We're in a meeting, not a webinar. So if you're talking, people will be able to hear you. I'll be muting you in the back end, but keep that in mind. But cool. Awesome. Hi. Thanks for the introduction, Radhika. My name is Natalie Lavery. I head up marketing for Climate People. Climate People is a climate recruitment agency. We work with both hiring managers and job seekers. As long as they're interested in climate, our sole mission is to mobilize a workforce transition into climate. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, if you were in the call, I live in Driggs, Idaho. Actually, I'm from Richmond, Virginia, so we have that in common as well. But yeah, Driggs, Idaho is a tiny little ski town near Jackson, Wyoming. And you can contact me at climatepeople.com. I'll drop my email and my LinkedIn as well. But yeah, I'm a rock climber. I like to ski. And then, as Radhika mentioned, I am also left-handed. Super excited to be here and hopefully answer some of y'all's questions about how you can optimize your LinkedIn. Quickly, the agenda for today is going to be Radhika's going to give us a guide to regenerative networking and how you can use LinkedIn to enhance this. We're going to spend the most of the time today discussing why LinkedIn, why you even should bother, how to polish your LinkedIn profile, how to create connections, engaging with other people's content, creating your own content, and then setting a cadence for your content. Then lastly, we'll end with some resources. If we have time, we're going to go to questions, but don't want to bank on it because we do have a lot of content and a lot of ground to cover. Perfect.
Well,
Over to you.
thank you. So yeah, I'm already seeing a few questions about like, how do I design an effective headline? How do I make the algorithm work better for me? So we're going to be covering all of that today. So really quickly, what I always like to start this workshop with is briefly talking about regenerative networking, because oftentimes I hear and I see a lot of people that are nervous about networking and nervous and fearful about even just how to get started with LinkedIn, or maybe, social media isn't for everyone. And so I see a lot of people seeing LinkedIn as that and already just kind of not wanting to use it because of that. But the key thing here is that LinkedIn is a very strong tool in your toolbox, right? There's lots of different resources, lots of different ways that you can connect with people, and LinkedIn is just one of them. But when you're thinking about expanding your network in climate or in social impact in general, whatever industry that you're looking to get into, networking is a really amazing way to not only build connections, but to find mentors and people that can help you along the way. It's really hard to do any sort of career pivot or job search alone, and that's where networking comes in. It can help you along the way. So, with regenerative networking, this is pretty much just a framework to help you connect with people in a way that is guided by intentionality and meaningful connections. So, regenerative networking really just means that when you're building a connection with someone, you're also giving back. When you're speaking with them, you're taking from them, you're learning, you're asking questions. Regenerative networking simply means that this can be a cyclical loop where you can give back when you're learning from someone. Simplest way of doing it is to really first start by finding a connection between you and the person. What's something that you have in common? And this could be a mutual connection that you have on LinkedIn. It could be a post that they shared that resonates with you, or maybe you're both alumni. Maybe you're both on this call. Start with that connecting point when you're reaching out to someone, whether that's on LinkedIn. Actually, specifically on LinkedIn, it helps to have that connection point. Then, when you reach out to them, show genuine interest in maybe something they said or genuine interest in that connection point between the two of you, and use that to make a connection with them. That could be, sending that connection request specifically, or even sending the connection request and then following up to say, hey, do you have time to chat? Or, even asking about maybe open jobs and things like that. But first, having that conversation, that connecting point is really important. When you then go on to connect with them, make sure that you're speaking from the heart. Actually, you can prepare questions to ask them to advance your goals, but you can also bring up that connecting piece, the similarity that you have, and talk about why you're interested in climate. The why behind why we're all here is the thing that connects all of us together. On this call that we did yesterday, another coach was saying, we are all part of nature. We are not separate from nature. And that's why we're doing this work, right? So remember to speak about that and speak from your heart when you're connecting with someone. And then during or after the conversation, always remember that you have something to offer. Doesn't matter if you're just getting started in climate, doesn't matter if you just graduated and you're unsure of what your path is, you always have something to offer. And that could be something, an article that you read. Maybe you know someone that can help them with what they're looking for. So take time to think about what you can offer, and don't be afraid to offer that either during the conversation or afterwards. So I share this guide to regenerative networking to help you all kind of think about how you can integrate this into your networking strategy and into your job search. Another thing that I always like to talk about is something called emergent strategy. And emergent strategy, it's a really incredible framework and methodology for better world building. And it's a book written by Adrienne Marie Brown, and it's linked there. But the basic tenets of emergent strategy are the ones that are listed here. And for the purpose of today, the one that I want to focus on is focus on critical connections more than critical mass. You'll build resilience by building relationships, and all of those things are needed in a climate job search, in the climate work that we're doing as well. So, just some food for thought, and let's jump into talking more about LinkedIn now. Awesome. So, the reason why I always talk about LinkedIn in terms of networking and in your climate job search is first and foremost, you want people to find you. You want people to know who you are. And LinkedIn is one way to do that. So by having a really polished profile, by connecting with people, by posting on LinkedIn, you're going to allow information to flow towards you. You're going to let people find you. Next, while a lot of you are looking to pivot into climate, you also need to make sure that you're learning about different climate sectors, climate solutions, the challenges that exist in the space. And LinkedIn is the active place to learn about trends in the climate space, up and coming technology. And so LinkedIn can also help you expand your understanding of the industry. Additionally, it helps to build meaningful connections, like I was saying before. It's not necessarily about connecting with every single person in the space, but connecting with people that can help you in your career path, in what you're looking for. And the last thing here is that with LinkedIn, of course, it does have an algorithm. There are different ways that you can engage with people, but you want to make sure that that platform is helping to bring the right information towards you. This means jobs, this means fellowships, opportunities, people that can help you, people that are looking for people with your skill sets. By doing all the things that we're going to talk about today, this will help you call all the right information towards you. Yes, that's one part of that is the algorithm, but really it's calling the people towards you as well. So there's a few main steps in doing this, and one piece that I talk about in my coaching methodology is the fact that there's 4 main tenets to an effective job search: learning, building, networking, and applying. Across all of this, you want to make sure that you're nurturing yourself, your communities, your relationships, and nature, of course. But if you do all of this well, you can do all of this on LinkedIn. And each one of these kind of ties into the other. And if you network, if you learn, build, and network effectively, you may not need to apply to jobs. You might get recruited for them, or people might find you on LinkedIn and pull you into, a job opportunity that way. So the basic components of effectively using LinkedIn are around, let's see, is the next slide up? Okay, perfect. Thank you. So maximizing your time that is relevant to you, creating your own posts, and setting a daily or weekly cadence to do all of these things. So let's jump into the LinkedIn profile first. I think I saw a few questions about, what that about section, what do I put there? So this is a very simple framework to help you quickly answer just, who are you? What do you do? How can you make a difference for people? So these questions are, what are my top 3 skills? Who do I help? What difference do I make for them? What am I passionate about? And why do I want to work on climate? The question around who do I help? You can get specific with that. That can be, these are specific communities I'm passionate about. These are, a specific type of business. Maybe it's a type of organization. I think we have all sorts of people here that may be looking for full-time work. Maybe you're looking for fractional or freelance work, depending on kind of where you are in your job search. That who do I want to help is a key piece that can help you tell your story kind of quickly and help those types of people that you want to help them understand how you can be of service or how your skills are applicable. So this is a quick 5-question framework that you can, if you answer these questions today, you can put that right into your bio. Additionally, if writing answers to those questions is difficult for you, I'd recommend trying out AI and ChatGPT to at least help you get started. These tools are still under development, so make sure that you're reviewing whatever they put out for you. But AI and ChatGPT can help you cut down on some of the time that it takes to write a cover letter, write your resume, and writing that about me blurb. So there's a few prompts here to help you improve your LinkedIn as well. So that's linked on this slide.
Perfect. Thanks for that groundwork and foundation for the rest of this talk, Radhika. Really helpful. Next, I'm going to talk about some profile essentials. So how can you make your profile stand out? How can you set it up? So as Radhika mentioned, those recruiters and those hiring managers are coming to you and you're not having to do all of the work for reaching out to them. So here are some 4 profile essentials that I recommend every person has on their LinkedIn profile. The first step is to have no blank spaces. So it seems a little bit intuitive, but you'd be surprised at how many people don't actually do this. Make sure you are completing your entire profile. If you do so, you'll get this little star that says all-star status. The way to get the all-star status on your LinkedIn profile is to have a profile photo, have your location, have your industry, your education, your position, some skills, and then a summary like Radhika was just talking about, how to talk about your skills. So simple, starting with the basics, but make sure you have filled out all of these things, and then your profile will be much more searchable for hiring managers and for recruiters. Next one is to have a profile picture. Again, seems a little bit intuitive, but it really is helpful when recruiters and hiring managers are searching the back end of LinkedIn. They're looking for people to fill their jobs. They are searching by how searchable a profile is. And if you don't have a LinkedIn profile picture, your profile is not going to come up as high as the other people who do have a profile picture. So again, simple, but make sure you have one. Have good lighting, make sure it's a clean and clutter-free background. There's a lot of free online tools that can remove the background. Backgroundremover.com is an example of one. So if you have a photo of yourself, but it's not a good background, simply upload that and then you can just have no background. So super helpful. Again, very easy, but highly rewarding if you do it. Up next is to show that you're available to work, show that you're open to work. There is the big debate about the green hashtag banner that says open to work. And I'm here to tell you that if you are open to work and you are not currently employed, it is helpful to have that banner in your profile. It doesn't make you look desperate, I promise. Have it if you're open to work. It simply just shows hiring managers, it makes them easy at one glance, they can tell that you are looking for a job. So make sure you include it. But if you are looking for work, looking for a job in climate, but you're currently employed and you don't want your employer to know that you're open to work with a bright green hashtag, you can also tell LinkedIn on the back end that you're open to work. So I have a screenshot on the screen here. When you select open to work, it gives you two options. The first option is all LinkedIn members. So that's giving you the banner. The second one is recruiters only. So that means that when people are looking on the back end, looking for people to fill their jobs, only people who have a recruiter with that are not at your company, have a recruiter license that are not at your company, can see that you're open to work. The way this kind of works is every company has an ID. So say Climate People's ID is 1234. If I say that I'm open to work, Brendan, Climate People's founder, who also has 1234 attached to his profile, would not be able to see that I was open to work. It's not foolproof, but I would say the reward of doing it far outweighs the non-reward or the risk of not doing it. So make sure you're open to work. You can also add any locations in there. You can add up to 5 job titles. So think about where you'd want to be, put those job titles in there, do all 5. It kind of widens your options. You can put your salary preferences in there. And then you can also get notifications if you manage your alerts. You can say that you want to work remotely and so on and so forth. So make sure you're saying you're open to work, even if you are currently employed. These are some stats that LinkedIn was kind enough to collaborate with us on to kind of back some of the data that Radhika and I have shared today. So back to the green hashtag debate, but turning on open to work on your LinkedIn profile increases your likelihood of getting a recruiter message by 2 times. So you have 2 times the likelihood of getting messaged by a recruiter if you have that. So again, I would say it'd definitely be worth it. And then also members who are using the open to work photo, so the hashtag, are 40% more likely to receive emails from recruiters and 20% more likely to receive messages from the LinkedIn community. So again, as Radhika hinted to earlier, it's just making your life easier. You're not having to do all of the outreach. It's also coming to you as well, making it a little bit more of a sustainable process. And then 28 million members globally have the open to work photo frame on their LinkedIn profile. So if you're scared of being the only one, I promise you will not be. There are 28 million of you out there. Perfect. So a little bit more here on how recruiters can find you on LinkedIn. So I hinted to this a few slides back, but your activity level has a direct impact on how searchable your LinkedIn profile is. As I said, LinkedIn operates like a search engine. So just like Google, if your profile is optimized for keywords and recruiters or hiring managers are searching for those keywords, you're going to come up first, just like that article would on Google if they have those keywords. So if you do these things, you are going to show up first. The screenshot on the bottom of the screen here is from the LinkedIn recruiter database. This is a search. So say I just searched product managers in climate. It's pulling all of their millions of people from their database, and they're telling me how many meet my search criteria. And 307 of them are open to work. So those are the things we just went over. 282 are active. So that just means they have a profile, they have a public resume, they're interacting with posts and so on and so forth. Internal candidates, that one's not really relevant, but if they worked at my company, that would be there. Interested in your company, that means they follow your LinkedIn company. So if you're looking for jobs, definitely follow those companies because that's going to make the recruiter more inclined to reach out to you. And then also have common connections. So don't just follow the companies, make sure you're following the companies and then trying to connect with the executives and the main players at that company. Because if there's common connections, again, you're going to have a higher chance of that hiring manager or recruiter to reach out to you. LinkedIn Recruiter typically allows 100 emails per month, and the free plan allows 100 invites per week. So put yourself in the shoes of a hiring manager, of a recruiter. If you have a list of 100 people or 200 people, and you know that you can only reach out to 100 of them, you're going to choose the people who are connected to similar people. You're going to choose the people with profile pictures. You're going to choose the active ones, and so on and so forth, because there's a higher likelihood of them responding, and then you might fill that job a little bit easier. So make it easier for them, and then you're going to get more messages and requests. So here are two major mistakes that I see a lot of people making, and don't be this person. The first mistake is to use LinkedIn's default headline. So when you make a LinkedIn account, automatically it says your job title at company. So mine would say marketing lead at Climate People, which is cool, but that is doing nothing to sell my value. If someone was looking to hire someone like me, marketing lead at Climate People tells them nothing about what I'm capable of doing. So ensure you're using those keywords and you're selling yourself. We're going to dive into how to do this, but the takeaway here is don't just use the generic one. Mistake number two is to use that precious space of your headline to say that you're looking for opportunities. Yes, say you're looking for opportunities with the open to work feature, but don't use your headline to say, I'm looking for new opportunities. Again, you have 120 characters to sell your value, and there's nothing really inspiring about this. This doesn't make someone want to hire you because it's not showing your potential. Cool. So how do you show your potential? How do you get discovered? These are some tips to do. So be this person. First is to build a great headline. And then second is to optimize the skills tags on your profile. How to choose the right keywords. I know I've mentioned keywords a few times, but what does that really mean? How do you choose these keywords? Unlike a resume, where we recommend that you tailor your resume to every job that you apply to, you obviously cannot do that for a LinkedIn profile. You have one LinkedIn profile that has to be applicable to a whole wide range of jobs that you are applying to. So your headline needs to really encapsulate all of those jobs, and we're going to get into how to really do that. And we have a formula for you, and that is in the next 4 slides. The first is we kind of already talked this a little bit, but Google is a search engine just like Google. Here's an example of a real life use case. I searched product manager and climate. All of these people who came up, you can see that none of them have that default headline. They have keyword optimized headlines that focus on the things we're going to talk about now. So kind of just wanted to show you a real life example of this in LinkedIn's interface. So step 1 for building your LinkedIn headline is to visit job boards. So go to any job board that you would like. You can use a climate specific one like Climate Base. You can use Brown Girl Green, Green Jobs Board, whatever it may be, even LinkedIn's job board, and apply all the filters for a job that you would like. So salary, location, seniority, all of that, and simply just search for jobs that are interesting you. Kind of narrow down your scope, see what's out there, and look for those different job titles. From there, also use LinkedIn's green job filter. This is another tip from the LinkedIn team for this presentation, but we can drop the link to this in the chat. But LinkedIn also has a green jobs filter, so you can go to their job board and filter by green jobs. So if you want to do it within LinkedIn's interface, you don't have to leave. I'll drop the link to that in 1 second. The next step is to record those job titles. So create a Google Sheet, create an Excel sheet that has all of those job titles that you just spent the time looking for. Just put them all in there. So software architect, full stack developer, so on and so forth. Record at least 30 job titles. So you've done that, you have your 30 job titles. Next, you're going to go to wordclouds.com. Simple as that, wordclouds.com. And you are going to copy and paste all 30 of those job titles into the word cloud. From there, it's going to create a diagram that looks like the one I have on the screen, and it's going to tell you the most used words in all of your job titles. And those are your keywords. So the words that appear the most on all of the job titles are the keywords that you want to incorporate into your headline. So choose the most 3 to 7 most used ones that are relevant to you, making sure you have that experience, and just take note of those keywords. And the next is to build your headline. Again, as I mentioned, everyone's using the same formula. So use your metrics, use your keywords to stand out and to show your unique value. Here are some examples of really good keywords. The blue here are the keywords that these people got from their word clouds, and the black is their quantifiable impact statement. With resumes with LinkedIn, we always say, make sure you're showing the person what you did and you're not just telling them that you did it. So this is a great example of data scientist, climate tech, experienced in Tableau and Python, and then enhanced machine learning prototypes by 38%. So you have the keywords and you have your impact. This is a great sell to someone who is deciding whether or not they want to reach out to you. Another example here, software engineer, database developer, analytics manager at HubSpot, increased automation levels by 55%. Think y'all are pretty much getting the gist here. Blue is those keywords. Black is that impact statement. This person chose to include HubSpot because it's a big name and that adds value to them. Awesome. Another example here, marketing director, B2B, B2C. Perfect. So say you don't have those numbers. This is a question I get quite a bit of, I don't have those quantifiable impact statements. I can't really sell my value because I don't have those numbers. Don't worry, even if you don't have those numbers, this is a great formula for you to follow. It gives you flexibility and it shows your industry interest and so on and so forth. So software team lead, machine learning, Python, Golang at Google, build a massive database pipeline for climate risk. Another example is platform product manager, SaaS products, climate change and sustainability advocate, climate data enthusiast. So even if you don't have those numbers, it is okay. Still use those keywords and make sure you're still trying to sell your value through the skills that you have. You have 120 characters. Make sure you're using all of them and that they're taking up the perfect amount of space. So say you're entry level, say you don't even have those keywords right now. This is a great formula to follow for that. Recent blank graduate with a focus in blank and blank. I promise you've taken some classes in school that are going to give you those skills. Put them in here, and then you can have your aspirational job titles. So recent finance graduate with a focus in financial analysis, reporting and auditing, financial reporting analyst. That is the job that this person would like to have, and these are the skills that they have to complement that. Perfect. And lastly, the second thing that I touched on was skills tags. You have an opportunity on your profile to have 100 skills tags. Make sure you're using all of those skills tags on your profile. Another stat from LinkedIn is that 48% of hires in LinkedIn now explicitly use skills data to fill their roles. So that means hiring managers are typing in different skills into the back end of the database, and the people who have those skills on their profile are coming up first. Members who list at least one skill receive up to 2 times more profile views, 2 times more connections, and 4 times as many messages. So again, just another use case as to why this is incredibly important. Make sure you're updating your skills.
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much. I saw a few comments of folks saying, this is moving really quickly. Well, the great thing is that this is recorded and you'll get the slides and everything afterwards as well. So now just a few examples of what these like effective profiles look like with everything implemented that Natalie was talking about. So we have a few examples here, but this is just one, like the, the headlines, the name, and the about section that I wanted to highlight. And so Joshua here is someone that I've coached and worked with before, and I worked with him to tailor his LinkedIn specifically to the climate space. And in his unique situation, he's a freelancer and pursuing that mainly. So in his profile, you can see that in the headline, he did exactly what Natalie had just mentioned. Talks about the key roles that he's looking for and interested in, and then highlights a few different climate sectors. I think LinkedIn has gotten rid of the like talks about section, so that's not there anymore, but he then has his portfolio linked right there. And I think a great thing that is written here that kind of talks about, who do you serve and how do you help them? What he's done here is he's actually outlined if you are a climate focused startup or a larger company or a nonprofit, like he actually outlines if you're this type of person, this is what I can do for you. And then actually talks about his skills. So this is well tailored for freelance and fractional. I think you can apply this to full time as well. And this is just one example here. On the next slide, everyone here, these are all people that I've coached and worked with. They're all folks that have been, upskilling in the climate space and have successfully transitioned into climate jobs. And so if you're interested, you can take a look at some of these profiles as well. I think on the next section of this, right? So your profile is amazing. You've made all these changes. The next step is to then go into curating the connections that you have. Um, and when I say curate your connections, right? Like you all are here, you're already connecting with people in the climate space, people that are transitioning into a new industry. The key thing is that you want to grow your connections to people that are working in climate as well. You're all here. Some of you already work in climate. I'm seeing some folks that are environmentalists working in wildlife, things like that. So you want to have both people that are aspiring to work in climate and that already work in climate. And maybe for some of you, you've been working for a while and your LinkedIn is amazing. You have a ton of connections, but in a different sector. So that's okay. You can also curate what you see on your news feed. So if there's a lot of people that are posting about something that isn't relevant to you anymore, go ahead and unfollow those people, or you can even mute their posts. I wouldn't recommend unfriending or like disconnecting from people completely, because you never know, maybe they will pivot into climate in 2 years and then their content will be relevant to you. So don't disconnect from people, but you can unfollow and mute people if their content isn't relevant to you. Another great thing is, in addition to connecting with people, you can also just hit the follow button. You can follow climate leaders, climate companies, accelerators, education programs, all of the organizations that put on a Climate Career Week. You can follow those organizations. And the amazing part with the follow button is that you get access to the entire network of that person that you follow. So I have some examples of what this looks like coming up. Really quickly, if there's one thing that you take away from today, if there's a single action you take, I recommend hit the follow button on every single person and organization on this slide. The job fairies, I like to call them job fairies on the left. These are folks that are posting not only job opportunities, but networking opportunities for you to meet other leaders. Let's see, Daniel Hill, who's the second person. He works for Environmental Defense Fund and is the founder of Open Door Climate, which is a platform for you to connect with people that are working in climate. Their DMs are open to people that want to work in climate. So Daniel Hill actually does I think on the next slide shows, he does this thing where he actually highlights 10 people that work in climate that are open to connecting with people. So simply by following Daniel, you're going to see that content and you're going to see it every week. Additionally, Marco here has a post that he does kind of often talking about a 12-month master's degree for climate leaders, sharing resources, learning opportunities, books to read, things like that. So this is the information that you want flowing towards you. And by following people, by following leaders, you're going to see posts like this, but you're also going to see jobs. You're going to see people that are hiring for those jobs as well. So another thing, I think we talked a little bit about the algorithm too, is the fact that When you start to follow people, you're going to see more content. The key thing next is to engage with that content. So be intentional about how you're engaging with the content. You can engage with people, comment on their posts that they're making, reshare their posts, and leave a meaningful comment as well. Nick Martin here does this awesome thing called Social Saturday. Every Saturday, it's an opportunity for you to meet new people. This post alone got 241 people liking it and 575 comments. So this is again, I think there are folks that do this, climate folks specifically. So another great way to expand your network. Another one is to engage with companies. So when companies are posting about information and resources and things that they're looking for, you can leave meaningful comments to help companies with what they're looking for as well. And so a key thing here that I've mentioned a few times is, what is a meaningful comment, right? So a meaningful comment is something that expands on the subject, something that adds something new to the conversation, reinforces your experience. And also LinkedIn is a great place to also have, it's okay to challenge a subject or a point within it and add your point of view as well. It's a place to have conversation. So make sure that you're leaving meaningful comments with the people that you're following and engaging with. I have a lot of examples here. I think on the next slide, really like this example because Balak here is a job seeker in the climate space, and she got a direct engagement with Katie, who's a CIO at a climate company. And not only was, the post on the left was really interesting, but then Balak here left a comment that added something to the conversation, was an article that was shared here and got a direct comment back from Katie. So this is pretty cool. A job seeker got to talk directly to a CIO. And from this, you could take that into the DMs and say, hey, do you have time for a conversation, a coffee chat, something simple like that. So the leaving a meaningful comment is just one way of, again, letting people know who you are, seeing your name, and it can open up opportunities for further conversations down the line. Again, another thing, if you're interested in data, the great thing is that LinkedIn gives you feedback and data on how your own posts are doing. So this is a post I made a few months ago, and I tagged all sorts of people. I tagged a few climate leaders, job fairs that I had mentioned. And because of that, I got, there's 270 people, 17 people that liked it, comments, reposts. But the key thing here is actually the impressions. So the impressions show me that 21,000 people saw this. They didn't, maybe a lot of people didn't like or comment or anything, but 21,000 people saw it, which gives me the feedback that even though, I don't necessarily look at the likes every time, I look at the impressions to see kind of what's the reach of each post that I make. So if you're interested in that, by tagging people, by tagging the people that you're learning from, maybe you take a screenshot today and you tag climate people, you tag Terra.do, you tag me. That means that people in my network are going to see your post. And so that's what I mean by when you follow people, when a LinkedIn leader that has 20,000 followers, when they comment on someone's post that's hiring, you have the ability to see that. So that's again why that, the engagement here by leaving comments, you are kind of doing both of you're adding some to the conversation, but you're bringing people to your profile as well. And that's what we want. Creating your own posts, again, is an excellent way of showcasing your skill and your knowledge before you land the job that you want. Leaving posts is one way to do that, or leaving comments is one way to do that. But when you make your own posts, there's a lot of different ways to do that. One thing is that you could share something that you're working on, something that you're interested in, or maybe a project that you've picked up. Joshua here, when he started out freelancing, he did this thing where he was giving a free UX audit giveaway to climate companies. And I can confirm he was able to land multiple paying clients after kind of doing this free giveaway. So that's just one way of doing this. Another way to talk about, making your own posts is to talk about maybe what you're learning. You could share a screenshot of what you're learning here, maybe in the courses, if you're in climate base, if you're in air miners, if you're in Terra.do, any one of those programs, you can share what you're learning. You can even, if you're developing content in those courses, you can share maybe an assignment that you created or something like that. Another thing that you can do is just to reshare a post that was compelling to you and then add your own thoughts on top of that. That's a really good way to do it. And then let's see, what's next? Another thing that you can share is maybe, your own personal journey into climate. Um, I think I always see, everybody has a unique reason for getting into climate, but that's oftentimes the thing that connects us. I see a lot of parents getting into climate because they want to create a better world for their kids. I see a lot of people that are getting into climate because they are seeing the immediate effects in their backyard, in their communities. Talk about equity building and things like that. So if you want to talk about why you're interested in climate from a personal perspective, there absolutely is a place for that on LinkedIn, and I think it draws on people's heartstrings as well. So if you want to be be vulnerable in a moment to just say, hey, this is why I'm doing this, I think there's actually a lot of people that it would probably resonate with. And then if you're going to events like this one, or if you're going to conferences, you can also talk about what you learned, who you connected with, and what the takeaways there are. Um, yeah, and then really at the end of all of this is to set a daily or weekly cadence where you're practicing these things every day or every week. And we covered a lot today. We talked about, making your profile better, connecting with people, leaving comments. You don't have to do it every day. Like, you don't need to connect with 15 people, leave a comment, make a post. Like, you don't have to do every single one of these things in every LinkedIn sitting per se. But I would recommend something as simple as every week, take 30 minutes every other day to choose 1 to 2 actions that you can take. Maybe one sitting, maybe on Monday, your focus is I'm going to follow people. I'm going to find people and companies that are interesting to me, and I'm just going to click through for 30 minutes and follow people. Maybe the next day is now let me go on LinkedIn and kind of see what have they posted? How can I interact with them? And then maybe every Friday you make a post of something that you learned or people that you connected with. So you can set a cadence here, especially setting a cadence that works best for you is really important. And again, it's important to be consistent here in order to see results. I think number one, if you follow all those LinkedIn leaders, all those people that we had talked about, I think you will start to see their posts by next week. Like, that's pretty immediate. But building a better algorithm can take a little bit of time. It takes you engaging with content in order for it to feed you the right information. So this could take 1 to 2 months, but definitely keep at it. And if you have super limited time, if you only have 5 minutes a day, there's still ways that you can make this and LinkedIn work better for you. You can just do like a quick live update, share an update from a meeting or an event that you go to, or quote speakers that you're listening to. In 10 minutes, you can focus on curating a strong news feed, following companies, and sharing content that's relevant. And then in 15 minutes, I love the concept of stealing from yourself, right? Like, if you're in any one of these learning programs or a certification program, I saw quite a few folks, I think from a Yale environmental program. If you're in these education spaces, you're probably writing, you're probably reading, you're speaking, you're having to apply your climate knowledge regularly. So steal from yourself. Take maybe a assignment that you wrote and outfit it to work on LinkedIn. And maybe if you're not in a learning environment, or if you're not in one of these certification courses, that's okay. You're probably listening to podcasts. You're probably speaking with your family or your connections about, hey, this is why I'm interested in climate. And again, that's where you can still create content and kind of steal from yourself in that way. In terms of very quick action items, I would say number one, make sure that you're following all those people on that slide. You can see that afterwards. In something you can practice today and starting tomorrow is start practicing intentional and regenerative networking right on LinkedIn. And the key piece here is to be iterative. If you send one message to 20 people and no one responds, then change it. You can also customize. I always recommend make sure you're customizing your note. I think I saw someone even ask a question earlier of what's the best LinkedIn message to send when you're sending a connection request? I always recommend keeping it short and concise. Something as simple as, hey, my name is Radhika. I work in the climate space and I'm looking to expand my network. Something as simple as that will get someone to accept your invite, and then you can ask them another question from there. Additionally, you all are attending Climate Career Week, so make sure you stay up to date with kind of what's happening tomorrow. But I believe that there's also a Slack channel for Climate Career Week that I saw. I was like, oh, I need to join that. So make sure that you're staying, you're continuing, right? Like all of these moments are a moment to get started, and it's all about sustaining each practice and each effort. So the action items after today, if there were to be any, are really to focus on, follow all those people and companies and start building a practice. Start building a practice where you can start developing a stronger LinkedIn, a newsfeed, and get access to more resources. Yeah, and speaking of resources, we have a ton at the end of this slide deck. There's podcasts, certifications, and newsletters for continued learning. There's a lot of communities that you can join on Slack. Today we talked a lot about LinkedIn, right? Every single thing that we talked about for LinkedIn, you can apply in Slack communities. For those of you that maybe if LinkedIn is really difficult for you, go to Slack and start connecting with people one-on-one there. You'll still have to tell your story. You'll still have to ask people for coffee chats. You still have to practice everything, but you can do that within Slack. There's also a lot of job boards. There's a few linked here, but I think there had been a question. I feel like people have been sharing resources in the chat. And then templates, templates for building a stronger resume and things like that. Yeah, I have some resources here. That non-negotiables worksheet at the beginning, at the top right there, is a worksheet that I create in my coaching practice to just help you identify when you're job searching, what are the non-negotiables for the next work environment, the values, the type of organization I want to work for. So that's something that you can make a copy of and use. There's also some books for designing your life, designing your job search, and things like that. So lots of resources. We have, oh yeah, and climate career coaches, of course. These are folks that can help you navigate your job search. So I'm one, but there's so many incredible climate career coaches out there. We had a panel with a few yesterday, but there's all of these folks are also sharing jobs, they're sharing opportunities, different ways of thinking, approaching your job search. So would recommend following those folks as well. Cool. Well, we've got 10 minutes left, so maybe we can go through the Q&A and check some questions there. But I always like to kind of end on this note of a lot of us are pivoting into climate because we want to build a better world. We see the potential and we see the opportunity to build a healthier planet, to have healthier communities, to have healthier selves. And so for those of you that are entering into this space with that in mind, this is a quote from Adrienne Marie Brown, who wrote Emergent Strategy, but I think it's really powerful. How do we live compassion, justice, love, accessibility in alignment with this planet and the people on it? How do we live our values? As we are, so it will be. And you can practice your values on LinkedIn, in the conversations you're having, in the work that you do. I'd like to leave everyone with that, but let's take a look at some of the questions.
I just one note to add to what you just ended on, Radhika, is Andrea dropped in the chat that says, can we take a moment to recognize that 500 plus of us are excited and energized to work on climate and help make the world better? Sappy, but we're celebrating. And I love that. I think that's such a great way to end. And yeah, we provided a lot of information, a lot of tactical advice, but you really just need to go back to why we're all here, why we're all trying to learn these things to make that impact. So thank you all so much for joining us. And yeah, back to the questions. Did you have any in mind, Radhika, that you wanted to start with? Because I have one pulled, if not.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it. I'm just kind of scrolling through.
We had some asks on like insights around messaging versus connecting with a message in the connection. So basically, should I just message the person or should I try to connect with them and message? I'd say it doesn't really matter. I think the goal here is to try to get that interaction with them. Going back to what I was touching on, when if you're connected to someone or if you're following the company and you have those mutual connections, it's going to make it more likely for someone to reach out. So I would say that you should probably do the connection with the message. Just that way, you're following someone, you're getting more connections, and that's going to help you. And then once they accept it, you can send more information. I know it has to be a shorter message, but I would say that's better. But then also, messaging is okay too. And once you've had a little bit of a interaction, then you can send that connection request. The key is just doing it. I don't think it really matters exactly which way you go about it. Cool. Let me
Yeah.
stop sharing my screen. Awesome. Greta, could you see any other questions in there that you want to address?
I'm scrolling. There's so much going on in the chat. Let's see. I mean, this is a simple one. Do the emojis in the LinkedIn profile and posts help? I see them all the time, but it feels a bit cringe. I hear you on that. I think having emojis in the like in your about section, I think that's fine. And I think really the reason why people have that is because it's like a quick way of just kind of like showing what you're doing. But honestly, it's not a make or break. If you don't want to have them, you don't have to put them. It sometimes can just show a little bit of personality, which is nice.
Yeah.
Um, that's one.
Saw another one about like ageism and listing all of your experiences, if that's something that you should be conscious of. I would say if it's relevant to where you are looking to be, then include it in your experience section. You don't have to put dates if you don't want to. But yeah, I would not have anything on your LinkedIn that's not like relevant to the jobs you're trying to apply to. I know a lot of people have like career shifts, but they're really focusing on the latter part of their career. I think it's okay to remove the beginning. Yeah, and ageism as an issue is definitely something that needs to be addressed in the climate space. But yeah, I don't think your LinkedIn profile necessarily you need to like omit things because of that or add them because of that. I'd say only focus on the things that are adding value to where you're hoping to go. Do you have anything to add to that, Rick? I feel like you.
Yeah, I mean, I would also say like the cool thing with LinkedIn is that it's more space than what's on your resume, right? So on your resume, you can't have a 5-page resume that has every single job you've ever had, but you can curate a little bit more with LinkedIn to have the things that are relevant. So um, I would say like it's okay, and also LinkedIn kind of shortens like what someone sees at the first view, and then you have to kind of expand if you want to see more. I would say it's definitely okay to have, like, for those of you that have had nonlinear career paths, or you're kind of like, I did all this stuff that's not relevant to climate, but it's still there. I would say it's okay to keep it there, but if there's a way that you can almost make it relevant to climate, like, how is it? I'm looking at this one question of, I have a hobby and passion of floral design, and I own a floral arrangement company. Should I include that? I would say yes. That's a great place to put that, maybe like at the bottom of your about section, or even include that in your work experience. While yes, it's not directly relevant to climate, that's actually pretty cool. It's like so unique. Who knows, maybe the person that you're interviewing with or someone sees that and that sparks a connection to the person. So I feel like including your hobbies and interests and things like that, you should definitely include them. It shouldn't speak loudest. That's the key thing. It shouldn't take over the rest of your profile, but it's okay to have like one sentence about it and include that. And with your past experience, if there's a way that you can make it relevant to climate in the story that you tell, then it can definitely be relevant as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this brings up a point that we didn't even really mention, but if you were looking for jobs in climate, it needs to speak climate on your profile, and kind of adding a little bit more context to what Radhika was just talking about in the beginning of this presentation. Like I know it's not LinkedIn, but started out by talking about our interests, kind of who we are as people, and then who we are professionally. And I think it just makes people relate to you more. And a huge part of networking is finding that common connection. So as Radhika mentioned, if you have that flower business and someone else has that, that's a great launching point for a conversation that you're genuinely going to be interested in and want to engage with. So yeah, make it you as well as being professional, and definitely mention climate if you're trying to get a job in climate.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm just kind of scrolling.
Yeah. I saw a question on like, is LinkedIn Premium worth it? That's a great question. It depends on kind of like what your goals are for LinkedIn. I'd say if you're trying to use like LinkedIn Learning, which is a great resource to upskill and learn, then absolutely, I'd say it's worth it. If you're using it just to like message people, like I know you get a few more invites and stuff, maybe not. I would think it kind of comes down to, again, what are your goals? What are you trying to get out of LinkedIn? And then can these enhancements of LinkedIn Professional help me get there? I would say you don't need it. You definitely do not need it to do any of the things we talked about today. But sometimes it can be helpful if you're trying to like mark a job as a top. You can like if you have premium, you can apply to a job and then say that's your top choice. And then a recruiter can see that. Maybe helpful, but I don't think from a recruiter lens that person's going to be, oh yeah, I'm going to choose this person because it's their top choice. So it's helpful, but I don't think it's required by any means.
Hmm. Yep. And I think even with LinkedIn Premium, like I feel like the benefit there is like, oh, there's more in-mail credits and things like that. But at its, in its simplest form, you don't necessarily need a ton of in-mail credits if you're simply using the like connection request and you're sending a message through that. That's another way of doing that as well.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Oh, and I think, Natalie, I think you mentioned this at the beginning, but the key thing that, like, just to reiterate, going full circle of with getting recruited on LinkedIn, the more that you engage with companies and the more that you engage with these posts, the LinkedIn recruiting algorithm, like for those of you that don't know, like LinkedIn Recruiter is its own massive, like search functionality and tool that recruiters use. And by engaging with posts, by engaging with companies and engaging with content, your profile will get marked as being more applicable to certain jobs. It will appear in LinkedIn recruiter searches. So, all this being said, to tie it back, all of this stuff helps your profile get more noticed by recruiters and on the recruiter end. So we've talked a lot about like how do we let hiring managers see you, each other, like other people in climate. This is all great for that. But the key thing is going back by doing all these things, your profile will stand out in LinkedIn Recruiter. So that's also like there's actually a button that says when I'm using LinkedIn Recruiter, right now I'm recruiting for mechanical engineers. If you are one, reach out to me. But when I'm looking for mechanical engineers, I actually am, I search, I look for different backgrounds, keywords, things like that. And there's a note that says this person has a high likelihood of interest. And that high likelihood of interest is based on that person's posts, their engagement actually goes beyond even just what's on their profile. So, that being said, everything that we've talked about today goes back to the idea of getting recruited on LinkedIn. And then outside of that, it's going to help you. This is kind of multi-solving, right? It's going to help you build your network, build skills, build knowledge, and also find community to do this career transition in. So, yeah, I think we're at the end. Did you want to take any other questions?
I guess few quick notes. I'm seeing a lot of people saying there's no recruiters in my industry. When we're saying recruiters, we mean recruiters and hiring managers. Anyone who's looking to hire for a job, they're looking at this portal. They're kind of going about it the same way. So there are hiring managers in your industry. Then quickly, the next thing I saw a lot in the chat is how to get the all-star status. As long as you have a profile photo, your location, your industry, your education, a position, your skills, at least one or two skills, and then a summary section, you have that all-star status. So even if you're not seeing the icon, that's what people on the recruiter side are seeing. If you have those seven, I think it's seven things, and I can drop those in the chat really quickly. But yeah, we are at time. Unfortunately, time flies, and I know there's another session coming up right now, so we don't want to keep you. But thank you all so much for tuning in. As I said in the beginning, it's a lot of information, so feel free to add us on LinkedIn to digest some of this. We'll send the recording and the slide deck so you can get all these links and all of that. But thank you again. Thank you, Radhika. Your information was so insightful as always, and really appreciate collaborating with you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for
All right.
joining. We need you in climate. So Talk soon.
All right. See y'all tomorrow. Bye.
Thank you.